I've arrived in Escalante. I'm Joseph, this is Input English. This is Escalante, Utah. I'm standing in front of the Bureau of Land Management Visitor Center, and of course, it's closed. Why not? So their hours are quite good except for Sundays and Mondays. They're closed, but that's fine. I like this visitor center. It has a lot of information and the staff is very helpful. I can't worry about the fact that it's closed. It's closed and I'm here for the 2 days that it is closed, and so I get to accept that. The drive here from St. George was three and a half hours, and it was marvelous. I got a nice early start. There wasn't much traffic on the road. And it was really an amazing journey because it took me from familiar suburban settings with the usual stores, gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants, and projected me into relative wilderness. I drove through the Dixie National Forest, and the landscape continuously changed, much to my entertainment. I enjoyed every step of the way. Initially, it was canyons and cedar trees. Soon I saw aspen trees with their white bark and tall, straight trunks. Those trees didn't have any foliage yet. And then, much to my surprise, I drove into a snowstorm. Really, it's April and it's a snowstorm. That just caused me to drive more cautiously and more slowly, and I enjoyed every step of the way. I had planned on going in here and talking to the staff about local conditions in the canyons, what it would be like to take certain hikes, but that isn't going to happen. Behind me is a bronze sculpture of one of the local lizards that is typical of this area. Of course, it's a giant form of that little lizard, but I found this sculpture very charming. I have a picture of it from a previous trip, and when I took the picture, there was a small insect that landed on the nose of this bronze lizard. I'll see if I can find that picture. So with that, I'm off to find our next location and a hike to show you some of the sights near Escalante. So in order to get here, I left the paved road and drove 27 miles on an unpaved road, what we in the US would call a dirt road. But it really, if you wanted to put a description on it, it would be more like a rocky road. It wasn't bad. It was a little bit of a washboard finish. That is, it had ripples in it that caused the car to rattle quite a lot, but it's a relatively new car. The tires have very little mileage on them, so we should fare pretty well. It's the kind of road you have to pay attention. You can't just daydream and speed along. You have to look ahead, look for something that could damage your tires or your suspension. You have to look ahead and make sure there's nothing that would cause you to lose control. So it was a fairly tense drive, and 26 miles doesn't sound like it would take very long, but it took 1 hour. You can't go fast on that road. So we're in a desert landscape. There are cacti, small shrubs. There's a little bit of tumbleweed. And this is a hike into the canyons. And I'm going to go as far as it appears to be safe and reasonable to go. The place is not mobbed. There are not too many people here, but it's also not abandoned. The parking lot has more than a dozen cars in it. At peak season, this parking lot will be full, and one would have to park in an overflow lot half a mile from here and then hike into here. So I'm going to go down this path So this is the path behind me. I have to pay attention to follow the path because I do want to always be oriented so that I can come back and retrieve the car. I am about 30 miles from Escalante, and this would not be a great place to be on foot and lost. I brought water with me, and even though I'm not wearing it at the moment, I have a hat. So I'm going to hike a ways and look for an opportunity to show you something cool. After a very short walk, this is the view behind me of the canyon into which I'm hiking. The trail is pretty well marked, and you can see right here there's a cairn. So a cairn is a little stack of rocks, and people have been making cairns forever to mark trails. So the convention is if you're on the trail and you get to a place where you're not entirely sure which way the trail goes, look for a cairn, because people frequently mark the trail by building those. They may be wrong, but they are a clue, and then you put that all together in your mind and navigate. It's been a long time since I've been here, and the question is, how much has it changed? Well, the parking lot has been greatly improved, and they put in a pit toilet. So that's actually a big improvement. That's under the auspices of the Bureau of Land Management, that is the U.S. federal government. It also seems that the access to the canyon has changed a bit, perhaps for the good. As I recall, when we were here nearly 10 years ago, it was kind of a scramble to get down from this cliff level to the bottom of the canyon. And so for safety purposes, the improvements are probably laudable. This excursion today comports well with the strategies I talked about in a recent video. The problem is good places to visit frequently are visited by huge numbers of people. And if you don't really want to be mobbed with huge numbers of people, you might want to pick places that are a little harder to get to. And this meets those criteria. There are no real facilities here. The 26 miles each way to get here on a rocky dirt road will prevent a lot of people from coming here. The lack of facilities will contribute to the inhospitable appearance, and then the long hike that is required to get down to my destination will also filter the population. So there'll be fewer and fewer people willing to go to these efforts. You can see behind me there is a narrow opening in the rocks. So this is the entrance of Peekaboo. This is the first of 2 slot canyons. Unfortunately, there is a 20-foot scramble to get into it. And I've not looked closely to see if it's a reasonable thing to do. I've been talking to people on the way in, and they said they traversed both Peekaboo and Spooky. Nobody else around here right now. It's pretty quiet, early afternoon, beautiful day, not too hot, and down here in the canyon, not too windy. Up on the bluff, it's quite windy. So I'm going to go examine this scramble to see if it's reasonable, to see if I can get into the slot canyon. We will see. Now you can see I'm in a tighter canyon, and behind me is another one of those slot canyons. This one is called Spooky. So Spooky and Peekaboo are frequently hiked together. Frequently people hike in on Peekaboo and come back out on Spooky. So I'm now at the entrance of Spooky, and I'm going to walk in and see how far it's reasonable to go. I have to make decisions wisely. I don't want to be a casualty. I don't want to wait for somebody to come rescue me after some injury resulting from my own carelessness. So prudence is in order here. I looked at the 20-foot scramble to get up into Peekaboo, and it didn't make sense to take that risk. The handholds were too slippery, too far apart, and the potential for injury was too great. So even though I did that scramble 10 years ago, I'm not going to do it today. Prudence. Now we're in the Slot Canyon, so you are in the Slot Canyon. This is spooky. These are sandstone walls. We're actually standing in a stream bed. This narrows in the rock. This Slot Canyon was created by water erosion over hundreds of thousands of years for sure. Now that brings up the next topic, which is you wouldn't want to be in here if it's raining, because this Slot Canyon has a very big collecting system up on the plateau above, and so the water gets concentrated through this narrow passage, and a flash flood could be deadly. So I checked weather, and there is no forecast for rain today. If the weather looks like it's changing, I'm going to get out of here. I'm not sure how far I'm going to go up into Spooky. I know this canyon having been through it before, and there is a place where you have to climb straight up as if climbing inside a chimney. And that's why most people come out through Spooky, because going down that chimney is actually easier. So I doubt that I'll make the full circuit today, but I want to give you the flavor of what it's like to be in these slot canyons. It's early afternoon. The sun is still high in the sky. There are places, very good. So this stone behind me, it wasn't here the last time I was here, but that's not a big surprise. It's a giant stone that has been propelled here by water, and in order to get past it, I need to go under it. Scintillating. I just went through a very narrow place. There are places in this canyon that you have to turn sideways to get through. They have signs up that explain that these canyons get very narrow. I can imagine if somebody comes here assuming it's going to be easy, they could actually get stuck. I suspect that this is the only comprehensible input English learning channel that you can find on the internet that would bring you into the slot canyons. At this point, I'm at the narrowest section I can remember, and it's super narrow. I can get through this, but I don't see any point in doing it. My goal today was to show you what it's like in the slot canyons, and I would say that I've attained that goal. My wife and I went through both Spooky and Peekaboo years ago, and it's wonderful, but I don't need to do the whole circuit again. As I said earlier, when you're hiking solo, you have to make good decisions, because if you wind up injured or stranded and need somebody to rescue you, the big question is, how could you have prevented that? And the answer is almost always better decisions. So at this point, I'm going to score this as mission accomplished. You have seen the slot canyons, Peekaboo and Spooky. They're in southern Utah and outside of Escalante. And we've got lots more places to go and lots more things to show you going forward. So at this point, I'm going to hike out. It's probably about 1.75 miles to get to the car. And much of that is pretty much straight up. Well, this marks the end of a fantastic hike. Hours later, I've returned back to the parking lot, which is right over that hill. Hope you enjoyed this. I invite comments below. And if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.